me know. No problem. It's a bit moody out there, isn't it? Right. Okay. So are we ready, Claire?
It's recording now, John. Yeah.
Recording. All right. So we're very lucky, everyone, to have South China Morning Post's Jonathan White with us today. And so this is all of the Insight editors. A few to come in. Got storm delays on their internet, but then we've got Cherry and Daisy and Charlotte here. Now these guys they've been here from the start. If I click on this issue 1, so these are our editors. And what year were you in, Charlotte, when you first did this?
It was the last term of year 8.
Year 8, and you are year 11 now. 10.
Yeah, year 11.
Year 11 already. So they've shown real commitment across the course of producing one magazine per term. And I've shown Johnny some of your work. And so Johnny is here, and I've given you a chance to read his bio. So he works for the South China Morning Post as a football writer now, but also for food and drink magazines up in mainland China, and the Cleaver Quarterly, which I think we can definitely take some ideas from presentation-wise. Beautiful layout here, as well as his normal guys football journalist. But Johnny, would you like to further introduce yourself and maybe talk about how you've managed to move from covering just football to, well, what happened when there's no football and COVID? Crazy times. So, yeah.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for that introduction, John. I think the bio explains it all, but it's been a pretty varied career path. You guys have actually, if you've been doing it since your year 8 and you're year 11 now, you've had like a longer media career with one company than most people I know in the industry. So that's quite impressive. Well done on that. There's not a lot of long-term jobs in the media, so you won't get used to having 3 years of doing something. So that's probably a nice experience. Like John said, I started off writing for listings magazines. I was actually doing bar and restaurant reviews and cinema and a little bit of sport, and then that has transitioned into a lot of other things over the years. John, I'll let you lead the way.
Yeah, well, we've got some questions here. So across the course of the time, what we will do, Charlotte, Cherry and Daisy, is because it's the first time meeting, but Johnny's actually very kindly offered to maybe come back later, maybe as we move towards publishing, and give us like a further insight, and then you'll have the introduction. You can make your own questions like for the later one. But I've gone with these 3 that I think should give us plenty to talk about in the next 20 minutes. So across the course of our 6 editions so far, we found things made much more sense when we set a theme. And that actually happened here. So this was the environment issue. This was really like a collection of writings and like videos and things like that. But we then changed to coalesce it around the theme, and we've had the environment, human rights, and then the last one I was really proud of the editorial team, because you pulled that together when you weren't at school. So it was so much drive and energy. So my question, Johnny, is how do your editing meetings operate? How do you go about deciding on a theme for the Cleaver Quarterly, for instance, and then spreading the word amongst your writing pool to work with that goal?
Okay, so the first question you've got to ask yourself is why you want a theme, why it's important.
Can I pause there? Charlotte, can you make notes? Because this is going to be turned into a weekly bulletin article.
Okay,
all right?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, good. Sorry to interrupt.
So it's quite all right. So you've got to ask yourself why you want a theme, like what purpose does it serve? Obviously, from the production point of view, like if you're editing the magazine, if you're in charge of the content creation, if you get a theme, it's easier to get people in some senses to pitch to that theme, or if you're assigning articles, it's easier for you to come up with the ideas for them. from a reader point of view, like my own point of view on this as a reader is I much prefer themed content. Like it all comes together in a way that, you know, just a magazine ordinarily wouldn't. There's been two ways we've approached this though. Well, I have over my career with the people I've worked with, some of whom, when I started the Cleaver, I started with people I previously worked with at the Beijing for 5 years. So with the Beijing, it's a monthly listings magazine, but obviously we had a lot of content built around that. That it wasn't just necessarily events. You know, there was new openings and stuff that would go in sort of a more newsy way, but like there was regular articles, Q&As, spaces that need filled with more featurey ideas. And we could set the theme for that. And what we did was actually, because we had sections, it made it easy enough to basically hand over the theme to each one of those sections. So 1 month it could be art, one sport, one would be the bars and clubs, one would be the restaurants. With the bars and clubs and the restaurants, it was awards, so they were always taken care of. Then you just had to decide the theme of the awards and how you're going to present it. But with the other sections, it was an opportunity for like the section editors, when we had them, it was an opportunity for them to do something a bit bigger. So it was good for their clips. You know, not everyone is going to say in lifestyle journalism, you know, even in Beijing, like that's often an entry point into a journalism career for people. But for them to have the opportunity to do a cover feature, to plan it out with assistants, like to pitch towards a theme, to sort of, you know, help it along and help other people with the theme, like that was why that happened. And it was also much easier, like I say, to do those themes. With the Cleaver, the themes, because we operated in a different way, where we had people pitch to us on a regular basis, we would sort of cherry pick from the ideas that we've been given, and start to look if there was a theme that we could build the issue around. And what we often found with that was there'd be a larger theme, and some of that was because of the nature of the content we created. Like a lot of it's about how Chinese food has traveled overseas. A lot of it ends up being sort of personal essays from people about like their grandparents and childhood and things like that. And then a lot of it's sort of travel journalism. So it's harder to put together, but still rewarding. And sometimes you end up with mini themes, like say three pieces could run together, and they sort of present a theme of their own within that.
So thank you. We've got a theme for the next edition that will be published close to Christmas, which is culture and cultural celebrations. As an international school, we've got students from all around the world and many multi-faiths and many people who are atheist. So we wanted to look at how different cultures celebrate major events. But culture is a massive umbrella term. Would you have any advice for our editors about how to maybe make that nebulous term more manageable, for setting a theme that other students who aren't part of the editorial team can understand?
Well, you've already hinted at, I think, probably the best way to go about it, which would be celebrations. That is a much narrower point for people to look at. The focus is definitely narrowed on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could choose to do a lot of things. You know, it could go as off the wall as architecture if you wanted to do something. Because if you look at, you know, art and architecture in different cultures, like there's different ways they come across. Like you're not confined to anything there. That's where sort of the decision making comes in. If it's about getting other people to come in, like something like celebrations would work because everyone knows their own and is probably quite happy to shed light on them. So that's good for getting pitches in, which is quite often the hard part.
Now, I looked at this amazing layout. You've got some like really confrontational images there of the soldier, some visual artists. Who do you work with here? Are these artists who work directly in collaboration with you, or you find artwork around the city and think how it could connect to the theme. That's a brilliant image there, a great angle of all these Chinese food containers. And I really like this one down here, like that fiery, passionate Sichuan chili bowl. And then you got the simplicity of this. So these make us want to eat the food. So how do you work with the visual layout team?
Well, the visual layout team is generally me and another couple of people anyway.
Right.
That's the joy and the perils of starting a magazine on your own. And originally it was print. We did 8 print issues. We did a couple of books. We've done a few other products, and then we've got the website, which is criminally neglected at the moment because of the pandemic. But you know, there's room for some more content on there. To answer your question, it's a bit of everything. So you talk to some people, they can provide the images because they're writers and photographers. Sometimes you reach out to photographers, you know, because they might have some photographs and you can build a story around that, which is what we did with a couple of things in the first issue of the magazine. Sometimes you have to go onto the likes of, you know, Getty or Shutterstock and pay for the images. You know, occasionally there'll be stuff on Wikimedia Commons that you can use because it's free to use in certain circumstances. You can check the licensing. Essentially, you just need to have a bit of flexibility. This is where, like, sort of the toughest part of these things, because even if, you know, you plan everything to go ahead, you'll often end up with like, oh, a photographer couldn't do the assignment. So you still need to put the artwork in there because you've either got pages or a spot to fill in your thing. And then you have to think on your feet a little bit. With the illustrations, generally they're assigned, like, you know, we reach out to people and say, we need an illustration of this. We like your style. But then if you look at the book we did, the illustrated what we did was, with that, we got recipes from 25, 30 chefs who cook Chinese food around the world with different iterations of it. And then we paired them up with like the same number of illustrators that we'd found online, looking at Instagram, you know, Tumblr when that was still going. And we found illustrators we liked that were various contrasting styles. And then we just paired them up and said, right, you've got to illustrate this recipe. So yeah, there's a solution for everything, and I'm not suggesting we've always found the right one, but sometimes just finding anything to be your solution is you know, the best you can hope for, especially when you're working to a deadline.
Okay. Oh yeah. So it sounds like apart from just being a good writer, you've also got to work on things like relationships and networking. And then that ingenuity and innovation to get things together, which I know our editors certainly have had some experience, some genuine experience along those lines. But I've certainly we've looked at a couple of these editions before, Johnny, and we made a deliberate choice to move from heavy text base, which we didn't think people would follow, to these. I think, like, you can see the refinement in the choice of image there actually as well. So this is our latest edition. I wonder if, as you are the visual guy on your magazine, could you cast your eye and just give us some feedback on what you see that works well here, and then maybe some other like things to trim or bear in mind?
I would. Are you in charge of scrolling this? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm on my phone, and I'm not a Zoom master.
That's all right. I'll just take you down because I guess because it's a visual thing, I'll just show you like quite a snapshot thing if I do it quite fast, like this, or tell me to slow down.
Keep going. Okay, so just pause there. A couple of things. I know you showed me this the other day in fuller screen. So for the example where it's a quote, or, you know, a little bit of writing from those individual students, The text itself could be superimposed onto the picture, and you just have a picture with the text on it. That's an easier visual thing, because right now that picture's quite small and you're getting the text with it, and the picture doesn't really break up the text in the way it could. Obviously you're working within the confines of whatever content management system you've got. But generally in something like this, because people are probably looking on their phones, it's going to end up in a phone format, and you want to be able to break that up, the text, as much as possible. You know, I say this from previously doing like long form. So when we did the print magazine of the Cleaver, it was very much long form. Like even the photo essays were long form. They'd be over sort of 16, 20 pages, because we had the freedom to do that, because, you know, we were in charge of our page count. Here you confine, so all of those pictures of the children with the quotes next to them, that could definitely be put superimposed on. And then this artwork below, that could be used somewhere else in the text to break it up. Like, it seems a little bit wasted there.
Yeah.
Like, sure, maybe it attaches itself to the next photo, but they're all in the same sort of style. So you could just have the headshots with the words on, use that image you have there somewhere near the front, like break up the editor's letter, something like that. Yeah. You've also got to think, and this is like after you've done everything, then you've got to start looking like, well, you know, if you have a visual editor, if you have like a large team, someone else will do this for you, and they'll be thinking about this the whole time. It'll be a battle between the words and the images. If you're basically in charge of it yourself, you have to, once you put everything out there, start to think, okay, does this break up enough? Are these images too alike that are next to each other? Should we put them in a different order? Like, which deserves to be the lead image? Because all of these are like entry points for people, like to look at your words. And they're all also like breaking up the words to give them a bit of a rest. Because reading on a screen, especially your phone, even if you've got a very big phone, it's a lot of effort.
Yeah, that's great. I think we can see on the Cleaver Quarterly there, that kind of difference, like really arresting images. So maybe editors, that's a job we can maybe try to locate amongst the year 12 and 13 CAS students. I know we've got some brilliant video producers there, and maybe that kind of skill set of visual design maybe can help transfer into our own page designs here. Okay, brilliant. Well, we've gone quite a long time, so I suppose this is a very important question. What are the best tips you can offer for young writers? They're keen to get better, they want to find their voice. Are there any like quick and easy tips to that end?
The two easiest things are read more. Whatever you're reading, it's not enough.
Right.
And you should be challenging yourself a bit. Read stuff you might not agree with. Read, like we used to have, like pretty much every magazine I've worked at, we used to have hundreds of magazines that had nothing to do whichever magazine industry we were in, but hundreds of them lying around. So you could seek, you know, either visual or story inspiration from them. Like the more things you read, the more resources you can call on, whether it's at the start of like putting together an idea, or it could be, you know, you start with a quote from someone else to start your story off. And then aside from the reading, the other thing is just to write more. I would say, and not everyone agrees with this, because some people are, you know, understandably precious about their byline, but the way I started my career, like I would write absolutely anything for anyone. Like get used to working to a deadline, get used to having to start writing. Like your voice will come over time. Your voice will also change depending what the task in hand is. Like if you're writing 20 words to, you know, link to another article, that doesn't need to be poured over in quite the same way as if you've got 2,000 words to do, you know, that's about something a bit more close to your heart. So just get used to writing. Another tip I was given was like, don't worry about it. Once you've finished it, as long as, you know, the facts were there and you've made no, you know, glaring errors, and hopefully the editing process will help you out with that if you had. But like, just get on with the next thing. Like, the best thing you write will always be the next thing.
Super. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And
No problems.
well, we've talked about layout and images, and we've talked about best tips for writers, and we've talked about theme. So those are my questions. I wonder if we can open it up maybe to Charlotte, Daisy, Cherry, and Lucia, who's joined us. Hi, Lucia. Nice to see you, and Charmaine as well. Nice to see you. Do you girls have any questions? And maybe Miss Griffiths as well.
I'll let students go first before I chip in.
Okay, well, my brief to you was that you can sit back and let me steer the questions for the first one, all right? So if anything comes up, you just put your hand up and I'll jump in. I've got one more if I can, because it's a question for all of our students, especially in the examination years. But Claire, do you have a question?
You go ahead, John.
Oh yeah, so it was that idea of deadlines and time management. Our year 12s and 13s have said that's the most important thing that they want guidance on to get through their IBs, you know, and manage online learning. I've seen you at work, Johnny, and you are a prolific writer. How many articles do you publish per day on an average day, then on a busy day? I appreciate some of those are long form and short form, but what's the typical day like? And then how can you manage your deadlines? And what time management tips would you have for these students and a wider audience?
Okay. First of all, I fully accept that I am not great at time management. Sometimes I will waste what feels like a whole day down Wikipedia wormhole. It started off that I was researching something, and then, you know, who knows where I've ended up. I accept that, and sometimes, you know, you deserve that if you're trying hard, and you've got to work out what works for you. Like, there needs to be reward to all of this. Like, no one's going to be able to manage their time if it's just constantly, you know, the doom and gloom of deadlines. Fortunately, I quite like what I get to write about. It's, you know, usually in my interest, so I'm quite G'd up for it. But, you know, like everyone, I have days where I'm much less productive. Probably 3 articles a day on average at the moment, which has been a little bit strange because there's not been many sporting events. So there's been a lot of thinking out the box to come up with stuff. If things are in the news, it's quite easy to turn them around. And then not every day will I write as much, because sometimes I've got to be in charge of the desk. So I'll be putting up wire stories, editing other people's stories. And your time management for that's a lot easier because you don't really have to think in the same way. You know, it depends what task you've got in hand. If you're writing something, you know, if it's something really creative, it's going to take you longer. You can also, you know, depend on how you work as a person. I think that's the most important thing. That I know that I can very intensely focus on something for a while. Like I say, it might be the wrong thing, like Wikipedia, but sometimes it's the thing I'm writing and I'll just power through it. Other times, you know, that's less of a focus. With deadlines, if something's for the newspaper, it's got a very, very specific deadline. If something's for online, that deadline can be a little looser, but it depends. Sometimes we do breaking news. So like when the Olympics was cancelled, like I had to turn that around in like 25 minutes because they wanted it for the front page. Sometimes it isn't like that at all. So yeah, I guess it depends how urgent things are to how you treat them. But everyone, you know, I've seen some people who I would say are even more disorganized than I have been at my least organized. Like everyone can do the time management. It's about finding ways to sort of reward yourself and work out how long you can focus. And, you know, deadlines help. like I've got a deadline for today, and I haven't focused on this all day, but it will get done. But knowing that the deadline is there will definitely help me when I come around to do it. You know, it's just because sometimes you can't do it in the order that other people would, you know, that's not necessarily wrong, even though your editors might tell you, because, you know, you're wasting their time. But as long as it gets done in the end. And then the last thing I'd say was, like, because I used to edit the magazines, like I would be looking after everyone else's copy, obviously with a team of copy editors and things like that. But that always meant that the things I had to write would be last, and they would always be under the most pressure. So I just got used to doing that, which is not necessarily a bad way of doing it, but I wouldn't recommend it to everyone.
John, can I
That's yeah, Claire, go on.
just something that the students I think might be interested in finding out more about. You mentioned a lot of very helpful advice for them there. And all writers write differently and all respond differently to deadlines. What do you give them any advice on writer's block?
Oh yeah, I know it well. The main thing I would say is, like, you've just got to start hammering the words out and be prepared that they could get thrown away. I had a very, very good relationship with my copy editor when I started working at the Beijing, that's Beijing at the time. And sometimes she would tell me to throw away like whole editor's letters and say, maybe do this, maybe do that. But it took me so long to write the first one, and you just got to get used to just hammering something out. You can change it, but you've got to try and find that groove. And even if you write, you know, 500 words and only 20 of them are going to be used in the end, once you've got to that point, you certainly don't have writer's block. If anything, you know, you want to write more to get it right. Also, walking. That's the one other thing. Like if you sat at a desk, I found this, you know, maybe it's because of the way I am, but I've read other people as well. Like if you go out for a walk, suddenly like the clarity of thought that you didn't have sat at a desk staring at an empty screen, where you were waiting to type something and you typed the first word and you deleted it and you typed it again, and then, you know, you never got anywhere. Sometimes going for a walk, like do something else. You know, you're allowed to forgive yourself for not being able to start, but the best thing is starting.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's at times it'll really feel like work, but hopefully insight editors, well, you got into this because of the creativity, and I am a big advocate of that. Yeah, fresh air walk, revitalize you, and then come back with a different perspective. Well, Johnny, you've mentioned you've got a deadline on the go, so we've kept you longer than we should have, really. But
no, it's quite all right, and it's a very good magazine you put together. So well done, everyone who's involved.
That's really nice. I tell you what, we definitely. Does anyone know how to take a screenshot? Because we should all wave and say thank you to Johnny. And Charlotte, do you know how to do that, to get a screenshot of this?
Yeah, but I think you have to stop screen sharing first, so I can use the grid video. Yeah. Okay.
Are you going to do it then?
Yeah, I'll do it now. Okay.
You tell us what to do and when to wave. Then, yes.
Okay. Just wave, and then I'll take it. Okay, I'll take it now.
I feel like I've had my. I don't have to wave. Who's waving?
Okay, I've got
so
it.
much technology. Zoom. What is going on?
Great. Did any last questions come up from any of you? All a bit shy and retiring today. Not to worry, there will be a chance. Johnny has very kindly offered, when we get close to the publishing stage, to come in and give us some more coaching along those lines. But can we just then all say a big thank you and cheerio? And that was really helpful. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone. See you later.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.